I now invite Dr. Roisin Kosar, Professor and Department Head for History, to share more about their department and the wonderful things that you can learn.
Thanks, Jason, and welcome everybody. I hope that so far you're getting a sense of a kind of general sense of how the Faculty of Arts works, and now we're going to kind of zero in on some specifics. So as was said, I am a professor of history. I'm actually a medieval historian, and I'm also the head of the history department right now. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes now talking to you a little bit about what history is as a discipline, and then a little bit more about some of the courses we offer in our degree programs and what you can do in our department. And I want to start with something, of course, very general, which is the idea that history is the study of the past. But many of you, and I count myself among you, as an undergraduate student, I really thought I came to a university to study thinking that history was really all about memorizing dates and people's names and events in the past, kind of the idea of creating a great big timeline. And I didn't think I wanted to do that, to be honest. I didn't think that was very interesting. But really, that was a misconception. That is that what history is about at any university is it's about interpretation. It's about the question of why. Why did things happen in the way that they did in the past? And when we ask those questions, those why questions, we make connections between the past and our present. And really what that means is that history, as it's taught at universities, is in fact, it's always changing. As the things that we consider to be important in the present change, so does our idea about the past. And so the undergraduate history courses that I took as an undergrad in the 1980s would look quite different to you as you come into your undergraduate degree in 2021. The concerns, the focus, all of those things have changed over time, and that's the way the discipline works. And I think it's what makes history a really exciting discipline. To me, this connection between past and present makes it really stimulating. And I think even we're seeing in the kind of public domain these days with questions of whether statues should be used to commemorate people from the past in public, we're seeing that questions about history are entering the public discourse in maybe some new and interesting ways. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. So here we have a little bit of specific information about the degree programs that you can do in history. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. If you have specific questions, certainly you could ask afterwards, or indeed talk to an arts advisor. It's always a good idea. But suffice to say that if you think that you want to focus on history, you would start with a general major. And then a little bit later on, if you think, oh, I really like this stuff, I really want to do more, you would apply to take either the advanced degree or indeed the honors degree. We have a very vibrant honors program. If you're really interested in history and you want a really strong cohort of other students, I would recommend you looking into the honors program, but that's not really where you start this year. What I'd recommend this year is for you to take a history course. Take one, see what it's like, see how it's taught, see if you like the kinds of questions that we're asking, and then go on and look for some more. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Now, the kinds of courses that you could take if you were just to take that one history course. There's a huge spectrum of courses that you can take right now, right out of high school, with no prerequisites required. And so you can see here that we really run the gamut with these courses. That is, they could focus on something very specific, like the history of one nation, or indeed they can focus on a region or a time period, such as the medieval history course that I generally teach. And they can also focus on groups of people. For example, our Indigenous history and Métis history courses. And these also satisfy that new Indigenous content requirement that I'm sure you've been hearing about, that U of M is just introducing right now. But you can see that you're in the material that you can study. It really does vary very considerably, so you can really follow your interests. Okay, next slide, please. So if you go on, let's say, and take a couple of history courses at those intro levels, as you move up into the third and fourth year courses, they become, to my mind, even more interesting. And you can see here that we have some courses at the third year level that cover things like the history of computing, digital culture, the history of crime, very timely course on disease and society in the modern world. And indeed, a course that we just love, which is a course about food history that actually involves you cooking, students cooking with recipes from the past, and then looking at how those recipes were put together and things like that. So there's a lot of interesting material to cover as time passes. Okay, next slide. And there are some other opportunities that you have if you major in history. Certainly the co-op program, as we've heard described briefly, is available to you as a history student, but also you can, again, in the upper years, third or fourth year of a degree in history, you can apply for what's called the Undergraduate Research Award. And I had a student working with me this summer on some material from the 15th century in Italy, and she was helping, actually she was constructing a database for me as we worked with this material. So you can do some very, very interesting hands-on work. And I think that in our department, people have such an array of interests that I'd recommend you looking into that. And the other thing I really want to underline here, and something you can get involved in right from your first year, is our Undergraduate Student Society. And you can see the name here. They are particularly active right now. They have a podcast. They have a group that has meetings and events, including remote events. And so I would really recommend that even if you're just taking one history course, get in touch with them. And they're very welcoming and just a very, very interesting group of students. Next one, please. So the kinds of skills that we emphasize in our courses are really about this word critical thinking that you've been hearing this morning. This idea that as you work in history courses, you are going to be thinking about how the world of the past was made, how it was put together. And this is really what critical thinking is all about. We do not expect that you come into our courses with these skills already in hand. Our job is to teach you these skills. And I want to emphasize that so much, because sometimes students think, oh, I don't have a really good memory, or I don't think I know very much about the past. We don't expect that you're going to come to our courses knowing things already. Come with an open mind, come prepared to do some work, and we'll teach you how to do that. So the last question, and the question that your family probably is going to ask you if you decide that you might want to major in history, is what can you do with a history degree? And Professor Liebel-McGowan earlier was saying, we're not a trade school, of course, so there isn't one specific thing that you're going to be able to do with any arts degree when you leave, but you are going to have a series of skills that are invaluable for many kinds of careers. You can see some of them here. But again, I want to underline, and this is something that we've also heard about already this morning, that it's not just about employment. By studying history, by thinking critically about the connection between the past and the present, you also become a more active citizen. You take a more active and critical role in building the world that you want to see. And I think that is absolutely essential. So it's the long and long-winded answer to that question, but I think that it's something to consider, that it's not just about the job you're going to do, it's about the person that you're going to be when you finish the degree. So thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the of these events. And I'm certainly very happy to answer questions at the end.